Welcome, everyone, to the Bless Your Books blog. I'm romantic suspense author Stephanie Edwards. I have my co host Courtney Turner Hoyle with me tonight, and our guest, the lovely Barbara Conrey. So glad to
Hello.
have both of you here with us.
Thank you.
Ladies, I love it if you would introduce yourselves and give a snapshot about your books.
I'm Courtney Turner Hoyle. I'm a multi-genre writer, so I have many books that could appeal to any kind of genre that you're interested in. I recently published Hollis's Hobby. It is a thriller. I have Solomon's Tears, which is a paranormal suspense. And then I'm coming out with rose colored glasses on Valentine's Day. And if anyone has ever worn rose colored glasses, I wish the best for them and I hope that they heal from that. And my book coming out on Valentine's Day is something to kind of help me with that. So, Barbara?
I'm Barbara Conrey. I am late to this author game. I didn't start writing until I was 65. I published my first book at age 70. It's the USA Today bestseller, Nowhere Near Goodbye. And I published the prequel to it this past August, and it is titled My Secret to Keep. I tend to write, both of those books are actually considered historic because the one starts in 1949 and but my book that I'm working on right now is totally contemporary. It's a total shift in everything I've done so far, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. It has a male protagonist. It actually has two protagonists, but it's a husband and wife. But the husband, is actually the main protagonist, and I'm having a lot of fun with him. I'm hoping to get done with this soon and get it to my agent.
Oh, that's amazing. How has it been stepping out of your comfort zone?
In terms of writing or marketing, the writing was the
Yeah.
easy part in terms of comfort zone. Although there is nothing easy about writing a book, I am convinced of that. Marketing and putting myself in situations like this, um, I've gotten used to it. I've gotten maybe a little better at it. I'm horribly nervous before I go on, so to speak. And then I'm fine. Once I start talking, I'm fine. I've been very lucky with my entire journey. Um, very, very lucky. But everyone I've spoken to, whether I've done interviews or podcasts or book clubs or any type of book function where I am talking to readers or other authors, I've been so fortunate because everybody has been so kind and so generous and interested, and it's been fun. But I make no bones about it. I am an introvert. I am in my office kind of person. In fact, I ran out today to do some errands and realized I hadn't been out of the house since New Year's Day. So it was time for me to get out. But it's been a glorious journey, actually.
That's wonderful. Do you have a particular character that you've enjoyed writing?
Oh, I do. When I wrote my first book, Nowhere Near Goodbye, I had actually, when I wrote it, it was a two-person point of view. And my editor said, no, this one character has to go. She was a child, it was an adult and a child. And the child was speaking from heaven. and the adult was alive and on Earth, and she was a researcher trying to cure the disease that killed the child. It was a brain tumor, glioblastoma. That's what my first book was about. And my editor said, this has got to go. And I said, this is 50% of the book. She says, I know, but she still has to go. So she ended up being just the prologue and the epilogue of the book. And I had to create another 50% of the book. And my editor said, why don't you take one of your characters and see if you can't work some of that information through her? So I had this one secondary character named Miss Maggie, who was an older woman, very outspoken, very direct, very, if she didn't like something, she made no bones about telling you about it kind of person. And the funny thing about that was the child who I had to just turn into the prologue and epilogue was also a very outspoken child. So it was very easy to take, well, it was sort of easy to take what information she was saying and telling and showing and giving it to this other character, to Miss Maggie. And in doing so, Miss Maggie became a hands down favorite, to the point where the prequel is actually Miss Maggie's story and how it connects with Nowhere Near Goodbye. So it was a real learning experience. I walked around literally for days saying, I can't do this. I just can't do this. And it's like, what am I going to do? I signed a contract. I just can't do this. But I did it. It was a lot of work, and it worked out fabulously because then it led right into my next book. So it was good.
I
So
read
that's
your
my favorite character.
I read your book. I actually won your book in a giveaway, and the question was something along the lines of how did you feel when you learned you were pregnant for the first time? And I relayed my pregnancy story of being 13 and finding out that I was pregnant.
Yes, I
And
remember. I love those things. I love those. People are they share so much more than I expect them to. And it just touches my heart. When I end up doing those giveaways, I literally don't do anything but respond to every single person. It's like I have to connect with these people. So you liked the book?
I loved the book. I thought it was beautiful. You did a great job. There's a
Oh,
reason why you have the title you do.
thank you so much. That means so much to me. That I remember this story, and so now I know why you're old enough to have a daughter that lives. Yes, that's amazing. You're the first person I've actually met face to face, so to speak, from one of those giveaways. It's like they are just fabulous. Which I forget which one it was. Which do
I
you remember?
think
Which Facebook?
it might have been Tattered Pages that was
Okay, yeah,
and
yeah.
then I read Nowhere Near Goodbye,
Have you
I
read
did.
From Secret to Keep yet?
I have not. I have
Oh,
not.
you should try it. You'll love it. I think you'll love it. You never
I'm
know.
sure you would. I'm sure I would.
That's so funny. Yeah, in Tattered Pages, there are some Facebook groups that their members are really they really get into it. They really connect. They really want to know more about books and about the author, and they really, I don't know, they really just touch my heart. They really do. So I'm so happy that I got to meet you.
It's so fun to connect with people who have read your work, and And that's one of the things I love about being an author. And so it seems like you feel the same way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's funny because with my first book, a lot of the people who read the book were friends, and so I knew them. This second book, I don't know, I guess my friends just didn't think they needed to read it. They read the first book. But anyway, most of the people who read the second book are people who I'm just now meeting. It's kind of an interesting thing. I don't know if that's happened. Has that happened to either of you ladies, that it's like the first book you seem to get more connection with the people that you know, and then after that it's like they throw you in with the wolves, and luckily the wolves turn out to be lambs, and it's just, I don't
I
know.
wasn't I wasn't lucky to have a lot of friends who are readers. I have one friend that's a reader, and then I have my mother and my eldest daughter, and they're big readers, and so that's where they've stayed with me through
Oh,
all the
that's
books.
okay.
So I'm lucky for that.
That's good. Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
don't you and Miss Stephanie know each other from a site?
Yeah, from the Bookish road trip.
Yes. Yes.
I
In
love
fact,
that group.
oh yeah, I love Bookish Road Trip. That's how we connected, because I forget,
Mhm.
I think we have a weekly thing about people who do podcasts, and
Yeah.
we encourage them to, tell us about your podcast so that readers can find you. And I don't know, I said something indicating I would love to be on your show, because I'm not shy. It's like I just, if I think something looks like it might be fun or interesting, or I just like what I'm seeing or what I'm reading, I will just put myself out there. And sometimes people just don't respond at all. But Stephanie contacted me and said, that she saw that I was interested, and she'd like to have me on the show. And so that just really just made my day.
What made our day that you accepted and were
Oh, thank you.
interested.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's how long have you guys been doing this blog or
Oh my
this
goodness.
podcast?
Just a few months.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, we've just gotten started. It sort of sprouted out of my Southern Sisters book group,
Mm-hmm.
which is a Facebook group. Um, and that group has just grown so quickly too. And I wanted to have another way to feature authors and to help plug my friends' books. So
Mm-hmm.
it's been a really great journey with Courtney, and we've interviewed some really fantastic authors and friends
That's awesome. Well, how did you two meet?
through, I think, the Tattered Pages Facebook group.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
I've met a lot of wonderful authors and readers through that group.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I agree. It's a great group. Like I said, they're very, they just really engage, which some
Yeah.
groups some groups don't, but I've been pretty
Mhm.
fortunate, to find ones that, or to be invited to ones that the the members just, just are really interested,
Mhm.
and that's fun.
It really is. It makes all the difference.
It does, it does. And Jennifer's the head of that. Is that right?
Yes.
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 Yeah,
Yeah.
she's a nice. She seems like, I mean, I've never met her, but she seems like a very, very nice person.
She is. She's very supportive of authors. So just been a huge blessing to be connected with her.
Yeah, and we need that. I mean,
Mhm.
it's it's a big author world. It's easy to get lost in it.
It is.
So if we can have people that are willing to, engage with us, that is like the best thing
Mhm.
ever. Especially, I'm with a small press, and I have found it to be a very worthwhile decision. I've learned a lot. I've published both my books through them, and I found it like to be one of the best learning experiences to go through with their editing process and to learn the whole, what it's all about and what you need to do. And I have found it to be very, very helpful. So I've
It
been happy.
strengthens your craft too.
It does, because there's so much to learn. It's
Yeah,
like yes, I can remember when I first started writing. I retired, and I knew I wanted to write this story. It was a very personal story to me, and I just sat down and started writing. And I thought, well, this is not so hard to do. I knew nothing about pacing or tension or anything. I just wrote down the story. And I belong to Women's Fiction Writers Association. Do either of you ladies belong to that? It's a wonderful organization for both readers and authors. And I had joined that when I first started writing, and I was at a convention, and I met some people, and we were talking about our writing, and none of us at that point was published. And I said, that I had written this manuscript, and two women said, oh, well, if you need readers, we'd be happy to read for you. And I said, okay. And I sent off this manuscript and didn't hear from these people and didn't hear from them. And finally I did. And they said, so maybe you need to back up a little bit and take some classes. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like devastated. I was like, oh my God, I've just made a fool of myself. And they were so kind. And in fact, I acknowledged them. They were in my acknowledgments, and they were just so, so kind. And when the book finally came out, they, you know, offered to be early readers, and they loved the book. And, it was, needless to say, a whole lot different than the manuscript I had initially given them. But there was a lot to learn. And I feel like I'm learning all the time. I mean, I really do. It's like every day I feel like I learn something new. And I like that. I like feeling like I'm getting a little bit, I don't want to say better because that sounds like an ego, but I want to say that I'm just gaining knowledge. I'm feeling more comfortable with the craft. And that makes me feel good.
you had mentioned marketing, and what are your feelings about that?
I have very strong feelings about it, and the way I handle it, which has worked out really well for me. Um, I promote other people all the time, and that has brought me a lot. And it wasn't my intention, but I love nothing better than promoting somebody that's either new or um, somebody that's like, above me and just needs, I mean, not like a Jodi Picoult above me, but, like somebody like mid-size, and just, reading their book and blurbing it, and writing reviews for it. And that has taught me to be more comfortable with like I've done interviews. I've interviewed people. I've been asked by agents, will I interview their author, and would I do this and would I do that? And so that has helped to bring me out of my shell. And I'm kind of getting like known for that. Like I get a lot of books that I am asked to read and blurb. And so far, I've been able to keep up with them. It's a lot, but I really feel strongly about it. And I really feel that it's important to give back because I've been so lucky. I mean, I've made so many mistakes and it has still come out to my benefit. It's like, you know, I've done things the wrong way and somehow I still turn out okay. And I've learned from it, so I'm not making the same mistakes, but you know, I still make mistakes. But so that's what I do. I'm not really comfortable saying, like some people will just day after day after day, they, you know, put about their books on sale or this or that. I I do that like maybe once every couple of weeks. I'm really not comfortable promoting about my private life for people to get to know me better. But I've tried doing a little bit in terms of like posting a funny picture. Like I posted a picture on Instagram where I was wearing a Santa's hat. Everybody loves that. And I did a thing on Bookish Road Trip. We we had to do a during Christmas. And that was the other thing. I joined Bookish Road Trip to be an admin just for the reason to like as a marketing kind of thing, you know,
Mhm.
to get my name more associated with an organization, and which has been very beneficial. And so we had to do a 5-minute live thing on Instagram and Facebook about our books. So I picked a date where I was like in the middle of the month so I could watch what other people were doing and get an feel for what I should do. And I still couldn't do it. And I finally said to a friend, I said, I can't do this. And she said, sure you can, look. So she brings this teddy bear. And I start talking and I'm wearing a Santa hat. And all of a sudden this big teddy bear, he starts like peeking over my shoulder and doing things while I'm talking, making me laugh hysterically live, right? People loved it. And it was like, that was the only way I could do it. And I still didn't promote my book. I said, I know I'm supposed to be promoting my book, but let me tell you about these books. And I started talking about some of the other books for the people who our admin for Bookish Road Trip, you know, and I started talking about that's just what I do. It's like, I like to make people laugh because then I feel like they're not concentrating on me so much as they're, you know, like enjoying themselves. But this teddy bear, I mean, I had no idea what was coming. And this teddy bear and the bear's like hanging on my shoulder, giving me kisses. It was a lot of fun. So that's what I do. How about you, Courtney? Do you have any marketing tips for me?
Oh, marketing tips? Probably not. I know that I related to what you were saying. I was really nervous once. I did an interview with a local television station. So it was during COVID. And so we had interviews remotely. And my son was 19 at the time, and he and his girlfriend were in the room with me while I was doing the interview. And guess I was talking too fast or too loud. I never hammered that down as to why he did it, but he's always a jokester. And he picks this metal chair that I have in the room and it's folded, and he comes over and he's brandishing it around like he's just gonna hit with it. But of course he wasn't. He was just trying to be silly. And when you were talking about the teddy bear, I thought, well, that was my teddy bear. was
God love your son, right? That was great that he did that.
It was a great time. But as far as marketing, I know things that I'm supposed to do. And I am so introverted. Just,
It's
I
it's
love,
hard.
I
It's
love
really
to connect with people so much. I love it. I do. But I'm so worried about saying the wrong thing and upsetting someone.
oh
So,
yeah. Oh, you will love this. You will love this. I had the worst experience on Instagram where I
oh
almost closed out my account. It was last year,
no.
and it was somebody that I knew through just being authors, and she had posted about a romance book that didn't have a happily ever after ending. And I jokingly said, well, you're just going to have to deal with it, right? Thinking that she would find it funny. Well, she didn't, nor did the entire romance community. I got so many, I got so many horrible, horrible posts. And I like, I like put out an apology to the original author. I put out an apology to the entire romance community, and they were not accepting it. And I finally said to myself, that's it, just back off. And so I literally stayed off of Instagram for like 2 weeks, and it eventually slowed up, but there were, and one or two, including the original author, contacted me privately and said, yeah, I get it, you were joking, I overreacted. Now this was a private thing, she wasn't putting that like it was a message to me, but it eventually died down. But I was mortified. I am extremely careful from now on that I do not do anything, because when you do something virtually like that, and you don't see a person's facial reaction or something, you can so easily take a statement and misunderstand it. You know what I'm saying? It's like, how could she possibly have known that I was joking? Except that I always joke. But I got that she would, I understood why she reacted the way she did. I was just mortified. I was, I just was literally sick, literally
And,
sick.
and Instagram is usually a really supportive writing community.
Yeah.
So that had to be just exceptionally
Oh, you
heartbreaking.
know what? It wasn't Instagram. It was Twitter.
It was
Which was the
Twitter.
exact, it was Twitter.
Oh,
I don't
Yes,
touch
it was
Twitter. How
Twitter.
dare you?
Yes, it
yeah.
was Twitter. Because you're right, Instagram is a whole different atmosphere. And
Mhm.
I initially started out with Twitter because I found it easier to like post and engage, but I am leaning more toward Instagram
Mm-hmm.
because I find a whole different attitude. And I think there are more, I don't know, people are just, I don't know, but yeah, it was Twitter. It was Twitter. I was just, I really, you should have interviewed me then, because I'd have been sobbing.
Oh no. We like it much better when you're happy.
Yeah.
It was so, I didn't tell anybody. And then I didn't tell anybody for like, I bet an entire year. And then this is like maybe the second time I've brought it up. It's like I was doing an online book club, and I brought it up there too. And, but it's not something I generally talk about, but it was, it was a mistake. And if somebody else can learn from my mistake, then, that's good. But it was a real mistake. And I really regretted it.
Well,
Well,
I'm
we all
sorry.
make mistakes. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, you're fine. I was saying basically the same thing. Yes, you didn't mean it that way.
I
And I'm
know,
so sorry it
and,
happened to you.
and I had no idea. This is how I don't write romance. I write women's fiction. I write book club fiction. I write literary history, whatever you want to call it. I don't write romance. I don't think I could write romance. I don't read romance. I don't write it. So I don't understand it. I didn't know a lot about it. I didn't know that happily ever after was like you know, a thing. Like it had to be happy. I didn't know. It was like, so again, my mistake. I know it now. But yeah, I felt really bad. I felt really, really bad because I would never intentionally like demean somebody's writing or their what they like, or I was just trying to be funny.
Yeah, yeah. We all make mistakes, and we have to learn things the hard way sometimes. So, if you had one piece of advice for somebody starting out, what would that be?
Don't give up. I am a firm believer in that. It's like literally, it took me 5 years to write my first book because I swear it took me 3 years to write it the wrong way, and then 2 years after I learned how to write it till it got published. From the time I started writing till the time it published, I never once thought about giving up. I never once stopped. I stopped once for 24 hours when I made the mistake of reading a really scathing review. Oh, it was so bad. The review was so bad. So I don't read my reviews anymore. Because I just was crushed. I was like, am I really that bad? It's like, was the book really that bad? It's like, you don't know. You lose you just
Be subjective?
can't when it's and it's like I was crushed. I couldn't write one word for like 24 hours, and then I said, that's it, I'm going back to work. So I just don't read my reviews.
Yeah.
If somebody posts a review like on Facebook, which fortunately they only do that if it's a really nice review,
Mhm.
um because if they did the other, that would be horrible. Those I read, obviously, when somebody tags me in a post, and then they write this lovely review, or they send me a letter. I've gotten letters. I've gotten Christmas cards from people, you know. Yeah, but I just don't go in and read my reviews.
Well, you can feel comfortable if you go on Amazon or Goodreads and you read my review of your book.
I will do that. How do you handle reviews? No.
Usually, I have to only read the positive ones.
Yeah, yeah. That helps. And I have done that. I have because luckily on Amazon you can just click on the ones that you want to. You can filter. And so I have done that on occasion. But and I got before I could even think about filtering reviews for My Secret to Keep, I got a 1-star review with no comments, just um a rating, 1-star rating, no words, no nothing, within like 24 hours of the book publishing. I got one actually on Goodreads before the book came out, and I knew who I had sent books to read, early read. And this was not this was not one of those people. I have no idea who this person was, but they just posted a 1-star review, and it was like, I don't know how people do that. I I've heard other people say that Goodreads, for one, doesn't require the book to be read.
Mhm.
It's like, yeah, I know, right? Why would you do that? I have no idea. But back to your question, Stephanie, don't give up is definitely my answer, because it's
Yeah.
easy to give up. And I'm a firm believer in, if this is what you really want to do, then you just have to keep doing it, even if it means taking more classes, rewriting. I bet I wrote Nowhere Near Goodbye, rewrote it 20 times, literally from start to finish. And then, of course, when I got a publisher and an editor, I had to rewrite the whole thing again anyway, you know. So
Yeah.
that would be my answer.
Well, that's solid advice. I think we all have those stories about getting started and all of the rough patches we hit with our writing and learning the craft. And having an editor tell you you're not as good as you might have thought you were, but you can get better. So
Yeah.
here's
Eh,
some advice.
yeah. And surprisingly, I don't, in general, take criticism well. Like, my feelings get hurt,
Oh,
but I had no trouble listening. I've had 4 editors with the same publisher, line editors and content editors, 2 different ones for both books, and they were all very nice. Um, and I did not have a problem listening to what they had to say. In both books, there were a couple of things I disagreed with, and when I explained why I felt it had to be that way, they ended up agreeing with me. So, but I didn't consider it like criticism, or I certainly didn't consider it negative criticism. I considered it a great learning experience, whether it was the line editing or the content editing. So, yeah.
well, I think the difference in an editor giving feedback and just some random person on Goodreads giving you a bad review, it's constructive, and you know that the editor wants your book to do well too, because they only benefit from your success.
Exactly.
So you,
Exactly.
and they know what they're doing. It's not someone who's uninformed about publishing.
And it's so, I think I had I had a book club for an author was the guest, and I invited my daughter, who is an avid reader. The book club is my neighborhood book club, and I invited my daughter because I was worried that there wouldn't be enough people. So I was like, bring some of your book club people, right? And so she did, and I had a house full. I mean, it's like everybody showed up. But anyway, after it was over, my daughter didn't like the book. She didn't say anything at all in the meeting about the book, but she told me privately she didn't like the book. And afterwards, though, she said, I never, and now she's just a reader, she's not a writer. And she said, I never realized, it never dawned on me that writers are just people. It's like that you have to be a little more forgiving, instead of, because she would write scathing reviews on Goodreads. I mean, if she didn't like a book, there was no doubt in your mind she didn't like the book. And I won't write a review unless I can give it at least 4 stars. But she's not a writer, nor does she ever plan on being one. And she writes exactly what she thinks up until that book club. And she says, if I can't give it a 4 or 5 stars, I don't write a review, which is my philosophy, you know. But yeah, she said it never dawned on me that writers are just people, which
Yeah.
I thought was interesting, because I bet a lot of people might experience that if they had the opportunity to spend time with an author, and to
Mhm.
talk to them, and just to see, like, their moms or dads, or brothers, sisters, whatever, husbands, wives. It's like, so I found that kind of fun. I liked that, especially the part where she stopped doing some really bad reviews.
Well, you probably helped protect some other authors' feelings out there.
And the more well known the author was, the more scathing her book was, her review was, if she didn't like the book. I mean, she expects like really big name authors to be absolutely perfect. And you know what? There's not one book, no matter who writes it, that's absolutely perfect. That there's no typos and which is not even the author's fault, but
No.
there's not one book where you could take like a sentence and make it better, just like a sentence, But to write an entire book is just really, really hard. It's still, I just think it's the hardest thing I've ever done is write books.
I agree with you. I have
Is
not
there
raised children, so I'm going to say raising a book from birth to
Mm,
sending it out into the world to go live its life. That's the
yes,
hardest thing I've done.
yes, I agree. And I remember I didn't do a book launch with my second book, but I did with the first book. It had to be virtual because I released my first book in 2020.
Mhm.
And it didn't dawn on me until that day that now people were really going to read my book, like perfect strangers were going to, like, I felt like I was naked. It was terrifying. And
Yes.
I did get some bad reviews. I mean, I got some books that just said the absolute opposite of what Courtney said earlier, about how much she loved Nowhere Near Goodbye. It's like some people just didn't love it. And they especially didn't love my main character. And she was not a likable person. But she wasn't, was she? And it's like there was no way I could make her likable because she had to do what I needed her to do in the story.
Mhm.
But Courtney, if you ever read My Secret to Keep, you will see why Emma was the way she was. It so explains Emma, along with Maggie's whole story, but it does explain why Emma was so driven and the kind of person that she was. So
I'll need to check it out because
you can.
I did like Nowhere Near Goodbye.
Well,
So
I'm so glad to hear that.
Well, with us being located in the South, Courtney and myself, and also with the name of our blog being Bless Your Books, we like to ask our guest author if they have a favorite Southernism or an aspect of Southern life.
Oh, this is tough for me, who is a northerner. I can give you a piece of history, though, that I've been told. I can't guarantee it's true, but it's what I grew up being told. My maiden name was Pickett, Pickett. And according to family lore, General Pickett was a long, long ago relative. I don't know whether that's true or not, but a Southernism. I get as far as y'all. And I jokingly put that in like posts sometimes, like y'all better get yourselves together, kind of thing. Yeah, that's the best I can do. I recently took just a couple of days to relax, and I went to West Virginia to Berkeley Springs, I think. Yeah, Berkeley Springs, where they have the the hot springs and everything, and it was beautiful. It was a really, really nice trip. I don't go south very often. I'm more of a mountain. I know there are mountains, but I'm more of a Colorado and a Vermont kind of person. But there are definitely benefits to living in the South. Although this year I know the weather has been a little not normal, I guess you would say. But
Yeah.
how's it been in Tennessee? Because I know there was a while before Christmas or right around Christmas where it was really, really cold.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
We were in the single digits there for a while.
that's amazing. That's even
Yeah.
colder than we had here in Pennsylvania.
Hmm.
Yeah, the weather's been.
Yeah. And we've had some snow recently too, which is just very odd for us.
Yeah, yeah. I would imagine that could be hard because people aren't used to it. They're not used to driving in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
And our towns don't have the equipment to properly treat the roads
yeah,
and to, come in with the snow plow and all those things. Like we're not equipped for that
yeah,
here. So,
yeah.
I'm a
I
little
have,
more rural. My area is a little more rural. So I'm really the extreme northeast Tennessee. And so we do see a little more snow on occasion. It's not really
mhm,
uncommon for us to see 2, 3, 4 inches. 6 and 7 inches is getting a little excessive for us nowadays. But my husband he works for the road department for the county. And so he gets out and he takes care of the roads and all of that. And he makes sure that our road, especially, is done well. And so for all the
that's great.
road
Yeah,
workers, I really appreciate them.
yeah,
mhm.
that's great. We had 36 inches one year and it was amazing. Like you didn't know what to do with it. There's just like only so much you can do with 36 inches of snow. Except
Yeah.
I have snowshoes and we have in our development a big park. And so we would go snowshoeing. But normally we don't get enough snow to snowshoe. Just where we are in central Pennsylvania, I mean, 45 minutes away from us, they'll get tons of bad weather that we don't get. It's just the way it seems to be.
Mhm.
But I bought snowshoes years ago and I bet I haven't used them. I bet I've had them for 20 years and I bet I maybe used them half a dozen times, you know, because you have to have enough snow,
Mhm.
you know. But yeah, we don't get a lot of snow. We get ice storms, which are not nice.
Mhm.
You can drive in snow if you have the proper car and the roads and everything, but ice is not for anybody.
No, and that's the problem here in Knoxville too, is we tend to get more ice than we do snow. I will say that. Um, and of course, if we do get snow, then it melts because it's so warm and then it freezes overnight,
Yeah,
which creates a huge mess. So
yeah.
it's an adventure.
Those are the kind of days that I'm glad I don't have to go to work anymore.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Well, is there anything that we've not chatted about that you would like to cover, Barbara?
I don't think so. This has been a lovely conversation. I've enjoyed very much meeting you. And Courtney, I'm just thrilled to death to meet you because I just totally remember that whole conversation. And I'm so pleased that I will admit, well, no, you'll probably, this is going to be, broadcast somewhere. I, I, I sometimes get a little sentimental about who wins books. Let's put it that way. Sometimes they're not as random as they should be, but depending on the story, and I'm sure I'm not the only person who does that. But this has been a lovely conversation, and I'm just thrilled that I got to meet you, ladies. And Courtney, you're not a member of Bookish Road Trip, is that right? It's just
I am
Stephanie.
I'm not, but I
Oh,
have a
you
feeling
need to join. It's a lot of
that I
fun.
need to.
It's a
Yeah.
lot of
I will
fun.
definitely look into it.
In fact, I host on that show. That's another thing I do that I was just a nervous wreck about. I host a once a month virtual book club on Bookish Road Trip. And that was what I was hired to do. It's a non-paying position, but that's what I was hired to do, was run the book club. And they said they wanted like top name, as many top name authors as I could get, which was interesting. So I last year interviewed Robert Dugoni and I forget David Bell, and I was so nervous. Was awful, but they both turned out really well, and they loved it. Everybody loved it, and and so every month I interview an author. Except for December. We never do a book club in December. But this month, I am being interviewed. So if you have time on January 25th, you need to check it out, because there's a Zoom link in the Bookish Road Trip site, and it's between 6:30 and 8 o'clock, but 6:30 and to 7 is just like chit chat. And then 7 o'clock is when like the author usually comes in, and then they do the interview. So someone else is interviewing me, which is a first in that venue in Bookish Road Trip, because I'm usually the one who does the interviews. And that's helped also with my concern about putting myself in the hot seat and putting myself in uncomfortable situations. It's like I'm getting better at going with, whatever happens. Like one time an author I didn't think was going to show up, because it was like 7:15 till the author came on. And I was like really nervous. So I started talking about the book, and I'm literally like explaining the book from start to finish till the author finally came on and I could ask my question, which he apologized. He was very, very apologetic about it. It was just a mix up. But I was like, oh, this is going to be good. He's not going to show up, and I'm going to have to talk through this entire thing. But he didn't. And it's so much fun to talk to other authors, to find out how they work, what works for them, what doesn't work for them, but a lot about how they sit down and write. Like, do they have to do certain things in order to write? Do they write every day? Do they write once a week? Do they write for 12 hours and then don't write for, whatever? I find that fascinating. I love to hear like how writers work, how they think, what kind of ideas they come up with, I like that.
I agree. That's what we love about this YouTube show. We have the opportunity to talk to great people like you and learn so much. And I've definitely learned a lot tonight.
Well,
So
I hope
thank
so.
you.
I feel like I've just been a chatterbox all night.
Oh, you shared a lot of great tips and a lot of great tools of the trade.
Yes, we really thank you for being with us tonight.
Thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun. I really, really appreciate it.
Well, you're very welcome. And I'm sure we'll be catching up with you on Bookish Road Trip, and hope to see you in the Southern Sisters book group as well. So,
I have to check it out. Yes.
yeah,
I will definitely check that out.
wonderful.
Okay.
Well, thank you, ladies. I hope you have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. Yes, it's time to put comfy clothes on. It was nice meeting you both.
Nice to meet you. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, bye, ladies.
Bye.
Bye.